Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Freddie's face is covered. That's not what we want, but we'll change the logo in a second. It's all a bit hit and miss at the moment, guys, isn't it? A new platform, new channel, but here we are. I hope you all really, really good. Good to be back. Good to see some familiar faces on. Lots to talk about today. I'll come to you each one by one. Stu, how are you doing, my good man? Yeah.
Yeah, always good, pal. Always good. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into the game in a minute. I'm not really quite sure what to say about that, but apart from that, yeah, I'm all right, pal.
No,
All right.
we will cover that. A few things we're going to cover today. Obviously, a little bit about the game. Obviously, Spurs and Chelsea, a bit of a great game to watch earlier. I'm sure a lot of you probably watched that as well. We'll talk about that briefly, and also some big news coming out of Old Trafford today that Dan Ashworth has left. 5 months into his reign, a bit of a crazy situation, and we'll definitely cover that too. Freddie, as always, my man. I hope you're really well. How you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, very well, thank you, and pleasure to be on the first Balls Out podcast. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, mate, as always. And Jonathan, if it wasn't for you tonight, mate, I think I would have been struggling right now. So he's doing the hosting skills, I'll be doing the talking, and over to you, big man.
Yeah, I was starting to think is if we should have called this the Balls Up podcast. The way this starts, nice. So, yeah, look,
Perfect.
look, we got there in the end. But look, we know what to do with future shows now. But yeah, looking forward to kicking this off now fresh. I think we've got a good viewership there going tonight. So yeah, look, bright future ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Kicking things off well. I really like that balls up comment, Jonathan. Very, very good. He's here all night, ladies and gentlemen. Mark, good to have you with us as well, buddy. Nice to meet you. As I said, I spoke to you backstage. Not been on a show with you before, but good to have you with us. And obviously, we'll come to you with a few questions in a bit as well.
Yeah,
So,
good to see you.
Stu, let's cover the game yesterday. Then I know there's a lot of turmoil going on at the moment. We're starting to see a bit of an identity, not the best 90 minutes I've ever seen, and obviously losing to Forest, who are in good form, let's not forget, but that's one of the games that we should be winning. But your sort of thoughts on that one, please, buddy.
Yeah, I thought the I thought the game was boring, to be honest.
Mm.
Um, it just lacked any real intensity from us. It lacked any real will, wants, the usual stuff that I speak about and have spoken about the last 5 years or so of doing this. We just lacked everything that a true professional football team should have. Nothing's instilled in terms of um, players actually wanting to play and win games of football. I mean, nobody can tell me, and even if you go back to Arsenal, nobody can tell me that you have to coach a group of professional defenders how to defend a corner. I mean, it just baffles me. I mean, we've spoken about zonal marking before. If you give anybody a 2 yard run, 3 yard run on you, they're going to score a goal. And we seem to do that. We didn't do the basics on blocking people. Do you know what, Mark? For once, I actually don't know what to say. I'm kind of baffled
There's a
by,
first for everything, Stu.
yeah,
It's okay.
I'm baffled by our performance. I'm baffled by everything at this point in time. And I think Amarin, the gloves have got to come off now. If he's been playing, fair with them, or he's been trying to placate them in many ways, then the gloves have got to come off. It's got to stop. And these players have got to understand that you're not going to force me out the club. I'm going to force you out the club. And he's got to do that quickly. And he's got to do that in January. So I'm at a loss for words, really. I was kind of fuming yesterday,
Mm.
but I've kind of calmed down a bit today. So yeah, like I say, I don't necessarily know what to say. I'm a bit stumped for words.
Yeah, it's a difficult period, isn't it? I mean, we've been going through this for quite a while now. It's nothing new to us. I think, we felt that with the new manager coming in, we might have a bit of a manager bounce. It seems to be that all the teams that we play, whenever they have a new manager, they seem to get a result, and it's just not quite worked out like that. I think that there's definitely identity now. We can see that. We can see the kind of style of play, but it's about trying to get the players to adapt to that and to get to that point, and hopefully over time. To be honest, I was talking about this today. Actually, I'm not concerned about the on-field results at the moment. I know that sounds crazy. I think that naturally, once we start to get a bit more of a flow and a bit more of a system in place, and the players kind of buying into that formation and style of play, I think that will naturally come. But I think there's so much going on outside and off the pitch. It's very difficult, isn't it? Freddie, any other thoughts you wanted to add to Stu's comments there?
Yeah, just that it wasn't a great game. It's frustrating because individual errors are costing us points, and it was just very frustrating. I mean, Nanane's had a great season. I'm not sure what he is doing for the second goal. Martinez, I think, as well, a couple of faults. Bruno giving the ball away for the goal, and then if we look back to the last few games, there's arguably been a few mistakes too. So it's just a matter of eliminating or eradicating these mistakes that are unfortunately having direct impact and leading to goals. I think we are starting to see an identity, and to me, that's the main thing this season. We just need to see a style of play develop, see that and the manager's implementing a system. In a way, I'm quite happy with that. We're not getting this manager bounce, so to speak, that we're going on a 5-10 game winning streak.
Having to work for it a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that in the past can plaster over a few cracks. So
Yeah.
I think what he's doing is good. He's rotating. He's obviously joined mid-season, so he's trying out new players in new positions. He's seeing what he's got. It's going to be he mentioned there's a storm coming. We've got a very difficult December. Things are going to get worse before they get better. I know we've been saying that as fans for a very long time now, but with the new structure, the new manager in place, I think that certainly is the case. So, yeah, not a great game yesterday. I think errors aside, we weren't actually too bad. Certainly in the first half, I think one of Hoyland's goal was very good football. So we're starting to see patterns of play emerge. So I'm sure that will develop further over time. But we've just got to give him time, and things will improve. Those mistakes will stop happening. And I've got every faith under the new manager that things are going to work, and we're going to really progress up the table and hopefully win trophies in the season to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points well made there. Jonathan, Freddie mentioned the sort of structure and the style of play. I've seen a lot of conversations over the last few days of players not trying hard enough, not really buying into the system yet, which obviously these things take time. But do you think that we have, I see personally a lot of talent within the squad. I think maybe the footballing IQ isn't as good as it needs to be. We've got a lot of technical prowess, but not necessarily the intelligence to bring the best out of some players. But obviously we need to go into the market, particularly for a left wing back, probably another number 9, maybe a couple others here and there. But do you think this squad is good enough to maybe implement what Amorim is trying to do here?
No, I don't, and that comes back to something I said on the previous branding of this channel, shall we say. It's this team is one of the technically one of the worst in the Premier League, one of the worst in Europe, and it's one of the most unfit professional football teams I've ever seen in my life. And it's no coincidence that the first thing Amorim has said since he's come in is that these guys have got to work, run, because he's no fool. Like, he wasn't sitting on his backside in Sporting doing nothing for the 30 days he was managing for the last month in Lisbon. He was looking at these Man United players, the games they played. He knew what he was coming into. He doesn't know the players as intimately as he will in about a year's time, but he knew what he was getting himself into. He commented himself about how good a manager Ten Hag was before he came here. He knows what he's dealing with here. He's just giving these guys a fair crack at the whip. He's coming in here now playing the nice guy, the gentleman, very charming, very charismatic, which is very refreshing from what we had under Ten Hag. But he'll have more qualms about dumping these guys and getting them out the door, because 90% of this squad will not survive under this guy, because I'm sure there are guys there that are honest footballers, honest professionals. They just don't have the ability to run that he requires to be successful, and you can see it. And I've been beating this drum for a long time, and I think players like Bruno and Rashford need to be sold in the summer, and that's purely based on the fact that I think we need statement to really put a benchmark down. I mean, there's too many players have outlasted talented managers at this club, they're outlasting sporting directors now, and it just a line needs to be drawn now. And to be fair, I think it will. I think I said it a few months back that I think Ten Hag will be the last manager that suffers at the hands of these players, and I stand by that. I think Amorim will get the players in that he requires. But like what Freddie said there, I'm glad we haven't got a new manager bounce. I'm glad that the reality of the task in front of him has been seen, that this isn't going to be a quick fix. We're probably going to end up finishing in the bottom 10, if I'm being honest with you, unless something drastically changes in the second half of the season. But I just hope he sticks by his principles no matter what happens. But to be fair to him, I think he will, from what he's saying so far.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you mentioned about what Freddie said. I think it gives you a full sense of security, really, doesn't it? And, the manager bounce thing. I think I do hope he sticks to his principles. I think that's what you saw with Ten Hag. He didn't, in his first season, he didn't stick to his principles because he didn't have the personnel in order to achieve that. He played a very different style of play, and it actually worked really well for us. He then went back to his style of football in the second and the third season, if we can call it a style, whatever. That's not the question. That's not the conversation here. But it didn't work, and you saw that it just wasn't ticking for the players that we had and everything else, and against the teams, and probably to do with being in the Premier League, just didn't work. So I hope he does too. I hope that he does go for the right player profile. I hope that the people above him that we've talked about all summer, trying to get in and get the right players and run it properly, continue to do so, and they do manage to get those players in. So we'll have to see. Obviously, it's going to take a little while. I think we've been banging this drum for several years now, but I really hope it starts to come to fruition and we can start to see some changes there. Lots of you in the comments tonight. Really appreciate that. It's good to see some familiar faces, probably some new ones too. Get your comments in. Really appreciate it, and we'll try to get them to them when we can. Nathan in the comments there as well. Evening, gents. Great to see you all. Good to see you too, buddy. And Reese, a regular here as well, also coming in with a lot of comments. He said, I think only 5 to 7 players from the entire squad fit at the moment. There's a heavy demand, I think. Reese, if you want to put in the 5 to 7 that you think do fit, that would be great. And I'm going to come to Mark on this and what players he thinks suits, and whether it might be 5 to 7 as well. So, as I said to you earlier, Mark, great to have you on, buddy. And anything to add to what these boys have said, and what players do you think probably suit the system at the minute? Oh, you're on mute there, buddy. Hang on.
You are muted, Marco.
I can't.
I'm mute.
Might be able to. There he is. Here he is. Good.
Yeah. Firstly, great to be on the first show. As for the question, I can only really echo what everyone else has said. The fact there's no bounce, perfect. We can see who really doesn't want to be on that pitch, because that's what it looks like to most fans. That's all you're hearing is they don't look like they want to be out there. New player bounce. New manager bounce. You would expect people to go, let's get out there, let's show the manager I can be in this team.
Yep.
And I think 5 to 7 is a pretty big estimate, because I think there are players who can run, but then they can't keep the ball, so they're out the team. And there's people who can keep the ball, but they can't run. So we've got the combination of the big players you want.
There's no
not the right ages and that. So the game, corners, this is all stuff he won't be worked on yet. He won't be working on any of this. He's literally, from what we've seen on training, working on their fitness and getting up and down, and back into a shape. Yeah. That's what I'm seeing. But where do we go forward? 5 to 7 players. I would say Ahmad, obviously, Mazraoui, Euro.
Yeah, Euro is a good one. So Reese has kind of said 3 of those names, but not Euro there. But he probably just missed him out, in all fairness to him. But I think that this is a fair account here. Højlund, I've had a lot of run-ins with anti-Højlund fans recently, and I can understand their frustrations with him, to be honest with you. But I do feel like he's still raw. He's been under potentially 3 different managers at this point. We need to see a bit more from him. Sorry, Mark, carry on with your name.
Well, I'm looking at those names. Ugarte, he actually got rid of Ugarte.
He did, but
look at who he had coming through. Yeah,
He
Neves
did,
come through.
but also he didn't want him to leave. They had a really good relationship, and it was only because PSG stumped up 58 million that they were going to take that. So
Yeah.
I think that they've got a good relationship. It wasn't something that they wanted. It was only purely because of the money stance.
Mainu, he's not an Amarin player. I love Mainu. I really wish him all the best, but he can't run. If you look at him, obviously he stated himself on MUTV, he's a number 10. He started as a striker, dropped to the 10 sort of 8 role, and we're playing him as almost a holding midfielder, central midfielder, box to box. Watch him on the pitch. He can't get back. Players run past him. So that's not great. And Fernandes, I'm on the anti-sell Fernandes as fast as you can sell Rashford. Anyone who can't pass the ball 5 yards, I don't think should be a professional footballer.
So you're Rashford out, are you?
Do you know what? He's got everything you want.
Conversation we're having on the first show. I was looking forward to something like this. Go on.
I am out any player who can't give their all. I was obviously been old. I'm in my 40s. You're a professional footballer. You're living the dream. You die on the pitch. You literally run until you can't stop running. You give the ball away. You run, get it back. And he was raised in that fashion through our youth academy. And as soon as you get too big for your boots, you should be gone. And that's generally what I feel.
This is not really a conversation I want to have now, but I just want to ask you and probe a bit more. It's the first show I've been on with you, Mark, so I hope you don't mind. This whole notion of Rashford being too big for his boots, do you firmly believe that? Because I don't see that at all. I don't believe that Rashford should be blamed for being at the 300k a week in a shit team for what is 7, 8, 9 seasons now, where everyone else around him doesn't bring out the best in the whole team, and the whole team's been shit. So do you... The thing is, bro, the way that I feel, if he goes to another club, he will absolutely cook at another a team. He'll go to PSG, do really well. Real Madrid could go for someone like him, another team, whatever it might be. And I really do believe that he deserves better than us at the moment. I am very much in the Rashford camp. I can understand fans' frustrations on him, the lack of energy and that kind of thing sometimes. But I think he is a wonderful player, and I've had this conversation so many times. I really feel that he's had 6.5 good seasons out of 9. And I don't care what anyone says, and he's had 2 very good seasons, is my opinion. But anyway, sorry, over to you, buddy.
Well, you say he's had that many good seasons. He averages 8 goals a season when you spread his goals out over what he's played. I think it's somewhere between 8 to 10. He's obviously that's that good season of 30 goals that pushes that up. So is it his fault he's on 350k? If I offer you 350k, you're going to say no?
Exactly my point.
But Anthony's on 200k. I mean, we took him from 20 to 200.
Yeah.
In one transfer move. So that's the club, and the club needs to be held accountable for what they've done. But that's the same for a lot of our footballers. We're pushing their wages up, and it does. I'm sorry, in this day and age, they will get too big for their boots because of the money and the lifestyle they live. Why are you going to listen to a manager that's on peanuts compared to you?
Well, you'd like to think they've got a little bit about them where they'll listen to their boss, whatever. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, listen, we're going to digress too much. It's just interesting to hear other people's thoughts, and I feel that we should definitely have a conversation about this another time, Mark. Right, let's move on then. So some massive, massive news today. Dan Ashworth. I probably was a bit reactionary this morning. I think Freddie's seen a couple of my messages, and Stu, and probably Jonathan too. Really pissed off this morning, to be honest with you. I feel like we've chased a guy that is renowned to be pretty good at his job. We had to wait for him prior to submitting, getting him and obviously the gardening leave and spending 3 million. And then he's been in the club 5 months and somehow he's now gone. There's lots of different conversations as to what happened. We will dive into those as well. But what were your initial thoughts, Stu? As I say, for one, I think it was really bad PR on Ineos. Really do. I think it's awful. The time, the gardening leave, the money you spent, 5 months, and he's gone. And I was severely fucked off this morning. Over to you.
I'm not bothered about Ashworth leaving. Not particularly. Do I think that there's an issue with Ineos right now? Ability to understand the running of a football club? Yes. And that's the key element to me. I don't think it's the personnel or the person that will miss so much. I actually think it's the collective of Ineos not necessarily understanding what it means to run a football club, running a business, running a cycling team, fracking, whatever they do as an organisation is completely different to running a football club. Now, I know everybody's talking about Dan Ashworth, best in class, Barada, best in class, blah, 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 blah. You just don't know until that person walks through the door exactly what they're going to deliver or what they're not going to deliver. And unfortunately, Manchester United at the minute has been a basket case for, I don't know, 10 years now. And we will be a basket case for the next 5 years because we have a group of very, very smart business people, but non-footballing people still. Barada, Wilcox, they've got to get the time to get their feet under the table, understand who they're working with on a day-to-day basis. So I don't think Dan Ashworth changed much within that short period of time. Would he have changed much in 2 years, 3 years' time? Who knows? I really don't know. What happens from here, I don't know. I'd imagine Barada's got someone lined up, somebody in mind that he would like. There's obviously been an issue with personality somewhere along the line, wherever that's been. But as I said before, you can be a brilliant business person like Sir Jim is, but you've got to understand the mechanics of football.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we're there at the moment with the mechanics of running a day-to-day football club. You have to remember Barada was the chief of City Football Group, not specifically a club. It's a big difference. Wilcox has come from sporting director role at Southampton, 18 months in there. It's a very difficult task walking through the doors at Old Trafford and making an instant impact. So I'm just not really that bothered. I wasn't absolutely delighted when he came in. Actually, I was, whatever. You need a strong CEO. You don't necessarily need a strong sporting director or a strong technical director. You need a strong CEO because those are the ones that build the foundation of the club itself. So for me, 5 months, it's neither in or there. It really isn't. You can't do anything in 5 months in football. So I don't think we'll probably miss out, to be honest. I know a lot of the fan base are fuming about it, and I did see your messages this morning, Mark, and I did have a bit of a giggle. But
I'm sure.
But,
It's not my finest moment, I know.
No, but there are people out there at the reactionary. I mean, the issue that the club's got at the moment is too many reactionary fans. Too many fans who don't understand Manchester United, who've never followed the trajectory of the club, never understand the real history of the club, and are just looking at it through the eyes of Sir Alex Ferguson. Well, you've got to stop that eventually. You have to stop looking through the eyes of Sir Alex Ferguson, look through the eyes of reality. And the eyes of reality is we just are nowhere near where we go, where we want to be, where we need to be, and we're nowhere near getting there either. So, look, if you're Dan Ashworth, you're putting your feet up, nice Christmas, a couple of £1 million in your back pocket, everyone's a winner. If you're Manchester United, it makes no difference to day-to-day run of the club. It has zero effect on us. What we do in January, may have been driven by Ashworth, may have been driven by Amorim, may have been driven by Wilcox. Who knows? Who knows? But it won't make any difference short term, unfortunately. So, to me, it is what it is, pal.
Well, I'm glad you're so positive about it, Stu. That's good, and you made me feel a lot better about it. That's for absolute sure. A couple of names on the list that I read today. I know we know nothing about them. I'm not expecting anyone to know anything about these people, but I want to get people in the comments to kind of give me a couple of the names. I know Reese probably knows a few names that he's sort of clued up with, so please put them in if you've got any examples. I was going to say that the two that I've seen today are Andrea Beretta, who said they're from Atletico Madrid, and also Luis Campo from PSG. I'm not high on Luis Campo just because of the talent that they brought in over the years, and that it seems to be a bit of a piss poor environment there as well. But hey ho.
Question.
So yeah.
Quick question. Do we need to replace it?
Well, I don't know, mate. Honestly, I don't know enough about what these people do. I know more now after researching over the summer, but we haven't had it for all this time. It's good to start acting like a proper football club where the bigger teams do have these people. But do we need to replace him? I don't know. And obviously that's going to be down to the club. But yeah. Over to you, Stu. Did you have something to say about that?
No, that was just my question. I mean, we've survived without a technical director, sporting director, director of football, whatever you want to call it, for a long, long time. People would argue that we've been worse within that period without having one. Well, we'll never know that. That's the thing, you see. We'll never know. And then when we do get one or two, they've not really set the world alight. Manchester United haven't set the world alight in digging out the great talent for years. We haven't set the world alight about playing scintillating football for years. We haven't set the world alight on anything football related, apart from being the most recognised brand
Yeah.
in world football, and that is better than what Real Madrid are, So I don't know whether it will make it, whether it'll make any difference whatsoever, whether bringing in Campos is going to be the difference. If Amron doesn't want to work with him or refuses to work with him, then it's an irrelevance anyway.
Yeah, good point. It'd be interesting to see what happens over the next few days, whether they do replace. I think, with the reports and stuff, I think that's going to be a thing that they do. Just to kind of bring you up to speed, and I've seen various sources say this today, but in multiple meetings, including the Ten Hag Future meeting on the 27th of October, there was a clear tension. The start of the end described a source as Dan wanted either Southgate or Howe to replace Eric. Dan's camp feel that there was clear and unfair segregation within the board. I can also reveal, I don't know who this person is, I can also reveal originally Dan Ashworth said no to both Joshua Xerxes and Delict, suggesting Branthwaite instead. So Jim and David Brailsford are feeling the pressure now, serious pressure, which we will come into in a minute. Part of the tweet was about Ineos panicking. I know we touched base earlier, Stu, about how Ineos are doing at the moment. They know that they have to get the fans on track again fast, or there's going to be problems. Dan is said to be disappointed his time at United has ended. Freddie, your thoughts?
I was very shocked this morning. I don't think anyone expected that. It was completely out of the blue. But I very much like Stu. I don't think it's that big an issue, and like time will tell if it is or if it isn't. I think we just have to reserve judgment on Ineos and the structure until a later date, because ultimately the structure only came in July, mid-July. It's so soon into that we can't just judge on anything, and unfortunately we're not going to know the facts as fans. That they're all going to be under NDAs and whatnot. So look, we don't know what's happened. It's either difference of opinion. They either don't rate his decision making, whether he had a big say in keeping Ten Hag as well on, and that's inevitably racked up a big cost, up to 20 million, and getting rid of him, and another 10 bringing in.
I did read today, Freddie, that again you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but I think he was one of the main advocates for keeping him, and of course that has cost United 17 million, whether you look at it well or not, and could be a big part in that.
Yeah, logically, that seems to be the most obvious reason. I don't know if it is or not, but it seems to be that is the case, especially as costs have been an issue, and it's quite topical at the minute. So that's obviously affecting Ineos from a PR perspective. But look, what I found the timing very odd. I mean, they've supposedly scheduled this meeting after the Forest game. Why it seems a bit odd having it on a Saturday night, it's not like a Monday morning. It's not a big thing. I don't know why they've done that. I'm not panicking. I don't think Ineos are panicking. To be honest, if there is an issue, I actually am in the camp that I'm glad that it's been addressed ASAP, and not just lingered on until there's more damage caused, if that is the case. So look, time will tell. Do I think we need a sporting director, or I don't think they're actually going to replace him personally. Certainly, I'd be surprised if they do this season. It wouldn't surprise me if Barada and Wilcox absorb some of the responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then they've got Christian Ravel still there, who has a big say in the recruitment also. So
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. I agree with one of Reese's comments. Too many cooks. I think that's certainly an issue. I was happy when we recruited him in the summer, or it was announced earlier in the season, end of last season. But what I thought what also was telling was the Newcastle fan reaction to losing him. I think they were quite happy for him to go. So
yeah,
I don't really have any particular strong feeling towards him.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a difficult one with Newcastle fans. I feel, and listen, I'm probably tarnishing them all with the same brush, but I've seen a lot of almost anger towards it, and there's this kind of fake rivalry that Newcastle fans have had since they've had this new ownership come in, and they were happy to go, oh well, we didn't give a shit about him, but they did not want him to go. So I don't feel that that's really not saying you're wrong, Freddie, or anything, but I don't feel that that's really a good baseline to go off. I think they were pissed off, and I think it was very easy for them to go, yeah, we don't want him anyway. You know what I mean? It's just like a sport child kind of thing. That attitude is my personal feeling on that. But anyway.
It was more so before we even linked with him. In all honesty, I think there was fractious sort of relations between him and Eddie Howe.
Right.
That was a bit of fear when it was announced that he was incoming. So yeah, time will tell. I think it's a shame that the City guy Viana has gone, or the Sporting guy has gone to City, or has announced that he's going to City.
Yeah.
That would have been the perfect tee up. But
who's the guy that left City? Is retiring. Chicky. Is it what? How do you pronounce the name?
Ferguson.
Oh, hang on. No, it's not the one I'm on about. Okay, go on. What's his name?
Tixie Ferguson.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
I was really struggling to pronounce that today. Typical Englishman, eh? Struggling to pronounce names. But no, I know that he's retiring, but I wonder if that could be, the way that I feel and how Barada has kind of acted, particularly with Amorim at this point, because we know that City did want to bring him on. Could that be a potential a possibility? Who knows? I don't know anything about him though. As I say, I haven't got a Scooby at this point, so I'm just chatting a load of shit. Anyway, Jonathan, any more points from you, my good man?
Yeah, nothing much in terms of different, but the boys there, I was shocked when I seen the news this morning on Twitter. I had to double check to see if it was actually a legitimate David Ornstein account at first.
He didn't believe it when I send it in. I send everything into the group, and he never believes it, Jonathan.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I mean, I would be honest, I was angry when I first seen it because I was like, this is unraveling before it's even begun. But as the day has gone on, I've kind of calmed down a bit more, looked at it a bit more logically, and as more stories have come out now, how reliable those stories are in terms of he wanted Gareth Southgate and nobody else to replace Ten Hag, how legitimate that story is, like we'll probably never know. But one thing is for sure, it doesn't look good optically for Ineos. In the last few months, in the last week alone, they've raised the ticket prices. They've gotten rid of Sir Alex Ferguson from an ambassadorial role in the last few months as well. They've triggered Ten Hag's contract.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I know we haven't spoken for ages, so we might as well talk about these little things as well that's not been spoken about for a while. But I'm okay with Ferguson being removed from the ambassadorial role. He did that with Matt Busby. It was affecting how he was operating when he first came into the club. And I think that that's okay to do. I think that sometimes we're kind of holding on to that kind of pass, and it does affect how it trickles through the club. And I'm okay with that. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I would agree to you. I agree with you there to a point in terms I would be quite rootless in that regard. I just mean in the broader scheme of things, with the amount of mistakes that they're making in such a short period of time, it's kind of eliminating that goodwill they would have had when they came in, that freshness, and it really is at an all time low now. And I don't think personally that they'll replace Dan Ashford. I think it seems as though Wilcox is working quite well there with Barada, which is unsurprising because they work together at City. And Christopher Vivell is there as well, doing a decent job. So like what Reece alluded to in the comments, I wouldn't be surprised to see him being made permanent. But look, like the broader picture is in the summer, it looked like a great appointment. It looked like a football manager type appointment with all these superstar men behind the scenes coming in to transform the club. But as we all know, this isn't football manager. Real life doesn't work like that. These are people, and it obviously just wasn't working behind the scenes. Whether that was with Radcliffe himself or with Barada, but something wasn't right there. And I suppose the upside is that Ineos acted quickly, and he's gone now, and hopefully we can move forward positively, and the club can start rebuilding itself in the way that we all wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Then lastly, Mark, I hope you don't mind answering the same sort of question. I'm just going to come to a couple of comments in here as well. Reese has said a couple of things that have come out when searching for replacements for Eric Ten Hag. So Jim wanted to hear ideas from Ashworth due to his expertise at building structures. Ashworth did not provide clear, compelling arguments for who to bring in. His list of managers included Eddie Howe, Marco Silva, Thomas Frank, and Graham Potter as a potential interim. So when we had those reports come out, we were all talking about it, about the names. There was probably some truth in it potentially. I don't blame him for that if he feels that that's the right person to bring in. I've got to put my trust in Dan Ashworth, but it's now evident and clear that that's why those names were kind of touted. Ratcliffe wanted more decisiveness in a dynamic appointment, someone with a certain charisma who was capable of shouldering the enormous responsibility and scrutiny that comes with leading one of the world's largest clubs. Anyway, Mark, any more points that you might want to come up with that?
I'm probably more controversial the other way. I wasn't surprised he's gone. So the job of a sporting director is to take the way the club wants to play, find a manager, find the players. We kept a manager which played 4-3-3. He was the right man for that. But as soon as Amorim comes in, he's not gonna. That's not the way he looks at players. Everyone thinks it's just a database, and that's what they do. He creates this big database like he did at Brighton, which Brighton still run now. So it shows you don't need Ashworth to run that. You need analysts. But the story I heard straight away was that he wanted Southgate or Eddie Howe. Well, he had a bust up with Eddie Howe, hence the reason we went after him. Him and Eddie Howe weren't getting on, so why would he have suggested a manager he fell out with? So first off, that wasn't. I don't believe that story at all.
Yeah, that's true. Jonathan mentioned that earlier, actually, and I didn't realise that was the case, and that was one of the names that came out this morning, so it makes sense.
But until the ink's dry on a contract, we could still get the sporting guy. I wouldn't put it past the way Ineos have moved regarding other people. He hasn't started, so he's not on garden leave currently. So you could go for him and offer him a contract. And he's used to that players for his system. But would you give Dan Ashworth a job in a lower league? He's not going to just go out and find these players who are going to turn them around. There's a lot more moving cogs to that. I don't believe him and the manager got on. I don't believe that the technical director and Ashworth are all on the same page, because there was other reports coming out. Like you said about the signings, there was multiple vetoes. So if someone wants them, someone doesn't. But what happens to those players when they come in? Well, he didn't want you. Oh, straight away your head's down and you're thinking,
yeah,
manager's gone, so he's going to have a bad word to say about it.
It doesn't bode well, does it? Because we hear these reports, you've got to take some sort of truth in some of them. And you're absolutely right. If one person wants to bring these players in, but then the man, like Ugarte, it wasn't a Ten Hag signing. It was Wilcox and Dan Ashworth. And of course, if someone like that comes in, that's going to be really disjointed. The player's not going to feel wanted. The manager's not going to play him. It's not going to be embedded into the team. And now you're seeing more of him because obviously Amorim knows him, So it is poor. I think it's really poor project management, essentially.
But like Ugarte, I never wanted him in the first place. I wanted Ederson from Atalanta because he can move around the pitch, up and down, destroyer, different kind of seat holding CDM, who would be great in this system. But that's because, like you said, finances. We have no money. Everyone keeps thinking that paying off the manager doesn't come out of FFP. It does, because
Yeah, it does.
anything that influences the team comes out of FFP.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I keep having this argument with people. I can pull it up, send them the link. This is exactly what it says, it right there in black and white. We've done that. We brought in a new manager, Ashworth. I'm guessing mutual consent means we're not paying him off for his contract, but we've already paid the money out to Newcastle. We're literally throwing money down the drain. Do we need to replace him? No, we've got two sporting directors currently working for the club. One, Fivell, he was that at PSG, wasn't he, originally? That was his original post, and then he moved up the ladder. And obviously, we've got the ex-Southampton, but he only done the job for 18 months. And like you say, he's ex-City. My fear is we've still got to keep one eye on the City court case and those two not getting brought into anything. So Ilios worries me.
Yeah, it does. It does me as well. I saw again. You have to take these things with a pinch of salt. But I saw someone send something. It's Mike better now, Jonathan. I think it was connected to my webcam a minute ago, but it sounds better. Yeah, good.
Mark, just a quickie, just to cut across you, mate. Let me tell you something about journalism. If somebody
Stu knows. Sit back, everyone, and listen. He knows.
if somebody gets hold of a story like what you've just spoken about, what's been reported today. If somebody gets hold of that 6-8 weeks ago, I promise you now, they're going to fucking use it.
Yeah.
They're going to get hold of it and they're going to use it. This is maybe information that people have wanted to come out now. And nobody's got a true source on this, by the way. The Athletic, I think they heard about it at lunchtime yesterday, that Ashworth was going. That's what they come out and said today. They got, nothing else has been reported since. So as a journalist, if you've got a snippet as hot as this, I promise you now you'll chase it down to the last dying letter to get that story out there, because it's a scoop. It's a make or break for a journalist. So what tends to happen with journalists, and I've said this before, by the way, is that journalists will speak to people within the club, and then these people will feed the journalists tidbits because they think they're in the know when they're not actually in the know. So it's what you're hearing today, what's unfolding today. I'd take 20% of that as reality. The rest, bullshit, because somebody would have jumped on that weeks ago. It's too big a story to not really delve into. So
that's all the talk's been today. No one's given a shit about Liverpool not playing. No one's given a shit about Chelsea and Spurs, although I quite enjoyed it. United have been on everybody's lips as per usual. What I was going to say before is someone sent in the other day about United being 700 million in debt still. They owe 250 odd million on transfers still, which I think is normal because they pay it over time, but a large amount. And also they're outside of FFP by 150 million. And they have to sell players. So you'll probably see that come January and summer, if anyone comes in for Bruno, for Rashford, Mainu, anyone else, they're going to accept it because they need to raise the funds quickly, which is not a good position for United either.
And Sir Jim's just been over in the Saudi League talking to some of the owners.
Oh, well, there you go then.
It's worth pointing out, by the way, that debt's an irrelevant subject because everybody carries debt.
Pay tax on debt.
Any company carries debt.
No, I'm aware of that, but with that and the amount for it just
don't
doesn't
forget,
look good
Mark.
for
Don't forget, it's classed as long-term debt on our balance sheet. It's not short-term debt. So Apple carries short-term debt, just to give you an idea, but something like 15 to 18 billion. A long-term debt strategy is 140 billion. So debt is debt. It really doesn't matter because you can service those debt at any one time, and people look at it from servicing their own bank account. Why would you pay interest on debt? Why wouldn't you just clear it and go? But you don't need to with a club like Manchester United. They could quite easily close that debt down and move on. But everybody gets hung up on debt, and I promise you, it doesn't matter. I'm not so sure we're 150 mil wide of the PSR mark either. I think that's way too much, and that people are putting two together.
I did think this, and again, as I say, it was someone that sent it in, and I think it wasn't the Swiss Ramble, but it was an account similar to that, and to a bit more details.
But the chances are that's based on the supposed 160 million loss. Well, in that case, you've lost 160 million. You're automatically 160 million in debt. It just doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So I think we probably are close to PSR. We may be tipping over PSR, but I don't think we're anywhere near 150. And the thing about selling people, you've got to sell someone that's dead wood anyway.
Someone has to buy it.
Yeah, so it's one of those. But I think looking at Manchester United from a whole right now, I'd be interested to see where you are in 2030 from an ownership perspective. I'm wondering if Sir Jim's looking at it from a venture capitalist move. Has an end date and an out date, usually about a 4-year period, maybe 5 at a push. So I'll be interested to see where we are at 2030 because he could quite easily, what did he pay, 1.7 bill in total, something along those lines. Probably in 5 years' time, he'll probably make 2.5 bill on top. So I'll be quite interested to see where we are in 5 years' time. That's what I wouldn't put it past me if he did that. Looked at it from a venture capitalist point of view.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for that bit of information, Stu. I feel like I've learned something tonight and
Sorry.
I'm going to sleep well. So thank you.
Sorry, I'm boring occasionally, aren't I?
No. It's all good stuff. Listen, I like to think that I'm relatively clued up with these sorts of things. I've not been as excited about United recently, and I've not really got involved so much. But it's always good to listen and learn from these things. So thank you. Right. Any other? God, I sound like I'm at work. Any other business? Any other business? Anyone? Oh dear, it's one of those days.
Yes.
Listen.
Yeah, let me raise something.
Yeah, go on.
Question.
Yes.
What are you lot seeing that I'm not seeing with Ahmad? Bearing in mind, before you answer this, you
like him.
You know my depth of knowledge when it comes to football.
Yeah, it's pretty small. Yeah.
You know I'm no mug when it comes to football. So what am I not seeing? Why am I not getting excited with Ahmed? Because all I hear, fans at the ground stadium, everyone's Ahmed nuts, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm trying.
Right. So, Freddie, over to you first. Then answer that question for me, please.
Yeah, I think it's just the visual element that he's chasing down things. He is running. He is getting into the box. He's taking on a person. He's obviously got a little bit more confidence than some of the other wide players. But the last I don't know, probably 4 out of 7 goals it's come from him pressing and assisting effectively. And I think he fits the system well. He's certainly probably one of, if not the first name on the team sheet for with the right wing back role. I think just relative to all the other players, he's up there, and I can totally see. I'll be honest with you, Stu. I totally do see why he's getting the praise he is. Probably a bit too much because standards have dropped given where we are in the table and the past few seasons. And fans jump on any bright spark. I think he is developing well. I think it's good that he's getting played. I don't know why he wasn't under Eric previously. I think that was a shame. But he's creative. We need to see others need to take a leaf out of his book in terms of his pressing, his work rate, his defensive abilities, as well as his creativity. So I think he's good. I think he's developing, but by no means is he the answer. There's a lot of holes, and in order to see his full game develop, we need to develop the rest of the team too.
I think you make some good points there, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think also the other thing is most of the fans that criticise Rashford will be high on Ahmad because they can see him working harder and pressing because that's the type of player he is. And I think that's all it is. I think he is blown out.
Do you know, if you compare, Rashford is no doubt in my mind, he's more gifted than Ahmad. He's got greater potential, better attributes. But when it's not going well for you, you just have to run. And Amarin's saying this, you need to just do the fundamentals, run forward, run back.
So I agree with a lot of what you said, Freddie. So I get it. I see it with my own eyes that 4 out of the last 7 have come from his pressing. And he presses quite high, but he doesn't zonal press, Ahmad. He presses close up. He's a close presser on the zonal presser. I see the work rate. I do when I see that. What I'm not seeing is positional sense. I'm not seeing when he receives the ball an instant, I know what I'm going to do with it type thing. And that's what I'm not seeing. So when he takes the ball, I'm expecting him to dart off with it. I don't see he's got that ability quite yet with his right foot. If you're playing at right wing back, for example, I know he cuts in a lot, etc. But his crossing isn't quick enough for me. It turns back on himself too much for me. But I do take your point about the other side of his game. So what I'm trying to say is, I guess I'd like to see a bit more. And it isn't unfair, this, by the way, because he's been playing the game for a long time. He's 22, 23, but he had been playing the game since he was 5, 6, 7. He learnt the basics of control, positional play when you're 8 to 12. That's when you learn all that stuff. And I'd like to see a bit more common sense with the ball when he's got it, and for him to travel better with it.
Can't teach common sense.
Yeah.
No, you can't teach common sense, but if you're at the elite level, then you should have a modicum of common sense. You should have an indication. So as much as I agree with Freddie, that's the addition I would put on top that I'm not seeing. Just because I thought I ought to clarify why I asked the question.
If I can just come in on that, there was a thing that's a rating system that people used to use in an office about someone of the opposite sex. You see him as a... Now, hear me out, because it's where I explain things. Because we talked about standards. But if you see someone, you think they're a 10, but when you see them outside of work, they're probably a 6 or a 7, yeah? We aren't doing the standards, so he looks like he's doing more and doing better because he's outworking other players. Stu says about his touch. Some of the goals he's created, he's actually overrun the ball, got lucky with a bounce, and knocked it off. He did that for Bruno's goal yesterday. He overran it in the box. Lucky bounce came back for him where he could tow it back for Bruno to hit. The one, Amorim's first goal, where he gets the guy dives in. If he doesn't dive in, he doesn't score. And it was a stupid tackle by him, and he's left him, clean through to put the pass over. It's standards. If we're not having everyone of the same standard as Ahmad, like effort-wise, he's going to outshine them. Højlund works his arse off up front, but no one passes in the ball, so therefore he doesn't score. Yeah. He's got the best shot conversion rate, I think, last season, something like 16 goals from 30 passes or something like that. But he actually got shots off. Mm-hmm. So it's about our standards. If Ahmad is where we want to be, then every player's got to step up.
Yeah. Just a couple of things before we finish off. First of all, it's really good to be back, and it's also really good to talk to everyone. Apologies for being late tonight. So we talk a lot about, go on, have you got the balls to make a comment? But I feel we need 2 awards. One for the Balls Up, which is us as a channel tonight because we were a bit late. And also Balls of Steel, which goes to Mark for his comment there, which was very on the edge. But we'll have one of those every week. Right, listen, we're gonna seamlessly end this now. Jonathan's got control, but I'm doing Jonathan's got control, but I'm going to be doing the talking. We've got obviously a few shows. We're taking it easy over the next few weeks. We're going to be doing the Talk of the League on Thursdays. I think it's going to be, we're just trying to organise that. I think Jonathan's going to be a mainstay for that one. We've got Nathan's normal show as well, which talks about kind of different topics within the game that you wouldn't normally talk about. What were the ones we did before, Stu? We spoke about...
So we want to do something on how football helps with the old noggin, the old noodle. Mm-hmm. Anyway, want to do a discussion on that? Yeah, we do.
You tell me, mate.
We should. There's a lot of lonely people out there, across all across the world, and you just have to tell on a podcast like ours now and again, and it helps them, maybe. Get themselves back into speaking with people. Some people are scared to come onto a podcast. Some people are scared to put a comment in for fear of being shouted down. Well, I only shout down ridiculous, pathetic comments, and we don't get many of those. But when there is one, then I'll have a pop back on it.
So basically, what he's saying is always comment, but be careful, just in case it's ridiculous.
Because I don't like it. No, I just think that. Look, everybody says COVID was a catalyst for this. Actually, mental health's been around for decades, years. People have been suffering from years, and most people won't even talk about it. And the beauty of what we do or what we try and do, us lot around here and every other podcast, we've got a lot of good friends on other
Yeah.
podcasts that we talk to on a regular basis. We
Yeah.
do it because A, we love football, we love Manchester United, but B, if you've got something that you want to get off your chest, you want to talk, you just want to be in a community or something like that, and then we're always here for you guys. So I think we should talk about it. I think we should do a show on it.
Just speak. Don't be a pussy or a scouser, as Reece says. I think that's very true, those
That's
words.
very true.
No, on a serious note, it is good fun. This was massive for me. I know these guys for a long time now, and I've built up a really good rapport with them. And we wanted to keep it going, and we absolutely will. And it's very important. And I think what Stu's trying to kindly say is, obviously, make sure you're talking, make sure you're speaking up, and if you ever need to reach out to us guys as well, it's important, and we absolutely will be reciprocal with that. Anyway, Mark, great to have you on tonight, buddy. I've enjoyed your conversation. We will be having a bit of a debate about Rashford later, I'm sure. But we will definitely get you on again, mate. It's been really good. Stu, Freddie, as always, really good to see you boys. These two are
Pleasure.
coming to my wedding, by the
We
way. I
are.
was doing my suit fitting today, by the way, so I'll send you some photos later.
Excellent.
Jonathan,
I've got a purple one ready for it. I have.
a purple one. I can't
Yes,
wait.
I've got a
I
purple
can't wait.
suit, pink shirt, purple tie. Oh, no,
No, I can't
thank
wait.
God.
He's going to look like a fucking poser, isn't he?
It's going to look like the
Anyway.
Joker.
Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka.
Really
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Powers, Willy Wonka.
Jonathan, always a pleasure as well, mate. I'll catch up with you straight after this, no doubt. But listen, thanks for everyone today. Really good to have you all back. Good to see some familiar faces. Thanks for everyone getting involved, getting your comments in. And next time when I see you back here, share it with your mates and get your comments in again. But until next time, we'll see you then.